Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex P. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys. It is Thursday, October the 19th. Ian Cameron and Alex B. Smith with you, ready to break down the Thursday slate. It's a massive one, and we will see this pretty much every Thursday throughout the course of the season. We've got 12 NHL games on tap tonight, and looking forward to talking about those. Just quickly, because we've got our guest Jordan Henry joining us in a little bit, and we want to get to the games. Just quickly on last night, it was a great performance from the Ottawa Senators, one that I enjoyed. Alex enjoyed it. We made the strong case for Ottawa on the show yesterday, and whether you had them first period puck line, whether you had them -1 or -1.5 or in regulation or the team total, which was my best bet on the show yesterday, you cashed your ticket. Pretty good win for the Ottawa Senators. And man, this offense is impressive. When you see what they've got now and what a return to the lineup for Josh Norris, 2 goals in his return for the Senators last night. What a way to return to the lineup with a great performance. You see the way Brady Tkachuk is playing. You see the way the blue line is moving the puck from defense to offense. I mean, the zone exits are clean. They're crisp. They're quick. They're catching the opposing team defensively off balance. It's been impressive to see the way the Ottawa Senators have started this season. And I'm frustrated I only got to this after the show, which is why I made sure to post it on X about Jake Sanderson, the defenseman for the Ottawa Senators, moving up to the number 1 power play unit on the blue line. And also the fact he had a goal and 2 assists in the first 3 games. And I saw that. And then the fact that DJ Smith has him on the number 1 power play unit for the Senators. I said, I've got to look at these props of his tonight. And sure enough, I found plus 700 for him to score a goal. And sure enough, he scores a goal late in the game. He was plus 150 to get an assist. That also cashed. I also took a shot at the power play point prop. That's the one that fell short. But still, Jake Sanderson props. This guy is unbelievable right now. And he's actually justifying and then some the money he got in the offseason from the Ottawa Senators. Just a very impressive player. Offensively, he's getting better, as you saw last night. And defensively, the play he made to snuff out a chance. He didn't go fishing for the puck with his stick. He took the man, separated the player from the puck. And that is how it's done at the NHL level as far as defending. I keep being extremely impressed with Jake Sanderson's game, and he was just spectacular again last night for Ottawa. Speaking of spectacular, we've got what we think is probably another spectacular guest joining us here on the show. We've got Jordan Henry with us, a longtime pro hockey player, AHL, ECHL for many, many years, probably a decade or maybe even more than that he played. Jordan, welcome to the Ice Guys show. How are you?
I'm doing good, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Good to see you. Before we always do this with the guests that join us for the first time. Give us the quick Jordan Henry career synopsis and rundown, if you will, the journey and the path in your hockey days.
Oh, no, that's if you check my hockey DB, there's a lot of teams listed on there, so I don't know if it's going to be quick. But no, I grew up in small town Alberta. I played out there until I left to play 4 years in the hockey league. From there, I signed with the Florida Panthers entry-level contract and played 3 years in their farm system. I went to Russia, Dynamo Minsk for 1 year. I came back, signed with the Calgary Flames, played a year split between Abbotsford and Chicago Hockey League there. Bounced around a little bit, did Sweden, Finland, and a few more stops, and then a couple stops in the coast, totaling up 13 years pro. So all over the place, but now I'm settled here GTA.
All right, GTA, and actually into sports betting as well these days, Jordan as well, currently in his post-hockey days. We actually were looking for a clip to play because we always do this with our guests, Jordan. We play the clip of something from their playing days, and we thought you were involved in this massive brawl with Rockford and Chicago several years ago. It was about a decade ago, but you were with Oklahoma City at the time. So we thought we were going to play that at one point. But we realized, no, Jordan was not on those rosters that particular season. So were you personally involved in any like line brawls or bench clearing brawls or anything like that?
Oh yeah, there was a few for sure. Being a guy that came into the league when, fighting was still a big thing, obviously, through and everything like that. And to my early American League days, there were some tough teams in Syracuse, Binghamton, and places like that, right? With, the names you always kind of hear circled around, John Morasti and Jeremy Yablonski, that, right? So, they love to mix it up, and those teams were real physical and tough. So, there was always incidents with them, and that was kind of par for the course in that time of the game. And now it's kind of phased out. Even towards the end of my career, fighting was way down. So it's kind of transitioned, but there was definitely some incidents when I for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. By the way, I want to say we think that we're worried about the future of fighting. We all are. And Alex and I are proponents of we want it in the sport. We need it in the sport. It belongs in the sport still, regardless of what the naysayers say. And I get it. People are worried that, someone gets knocked down, their head hits the ice, and then the CTE conversation starts again. I get all that, but you also need policemen on the ice to take care of these incidents. Someone gets run, they answer the bell, drop the gloves. You can move on then and get on with things. We need that part of the game still going. And that's why it was a brilliant sight for both Alex and I on Tuesday night, Jordan. It was an explosion of fights in the NHL. It was great Tuesday night. There were 2 fights in the Dallas-Vegas game. You saw Eberle and O'Connor fight each other in the Colorado-Seattle game. I mean, there's fights sprinkled across a lot of the other games that night. It was probably, as far as the volume of fights on a single night of NHL hockey, the most I can remember in a very long time. And that's a good sign because we want fighting in this game. And Alex, I know you agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And even last night you saw with Pittsburgh and Detroit, there were a couple of good fights, a couple of skirmishes and stuff. And I think, getting that physicality out, that takes, not only is it just policing, yourselves and not, leaving things in the hands of the referees, but also just you get a good hit out, right? And that aggression's out. It doesn't build and mount, and all of a sudden you're so frustrated you take this cheap shot. A lot of these cheap shots, they aren't just super malicious in the fact of I'm just trying to hurt somebody. It's a buildup of frustration. And that makes sense in the heat of battle. So by letting the steam out, so to speak, rather than just letting it explode, that in itself is worth something. But also in the fact that, like I said, you keep it fair. You just have one, man on man, 2 guys fight it out, and you sort it out, and things go from there. That builds momentum for your team, and it can shift the course of the game one side or the other if your team has a good fighter.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't look at, you talk about just letting off steam and frustration, and sometimes that leads to scrums and potential fights on the ice. Look at even Evgeny Malkin last night, of all people, at the Pittsburgh Penguins. He went after Sider, right in front of the net.
I wouldn't
there.
call that fighting, but
it's a violent release, if you will. Well, kind of a violent release. It wasn't really, you're right. It wasn't anything that was anything extremely, big, massive blows or anything like that. But you did see him. The team was not playing well at the time. Detroit had kind of taken control of the game. And he was letting off some frustration. Here is the clip we have of Jordan in action. One of his bouts from, I believe it was the AHL days. It's funny, this clip is you, and I believe it was Ryan White, who, of course, played a long time in the NHL for a bit, AHL a lot as well. So here is our guest here, Jordan Henry, in action. There it is right there. I think that was when you were with Rochester, I believe, at the time, Jordan, I think.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Ryan White played against them in junior as well, Western Canadian kid. So we were no stranger to each other, that's for sure, with him being in Calgary for a stretch. And, we played against each other a lot growing up. And then obviously, Hamilton and Rochester, we played it a lot in the early days in the American League too. So, yeah, just kind of we had to do as young players, trying to make an impact, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And that's what it's all about. Exactly. Trying to make an impact and trying to cement your position on the team and show what, that you can make a difference and a positive impact. There's no question about that. So Jordan's on our show, as you see today, and he's also been dabbling on the betting board. Overall, Jordan, how's the betting board been treating you, particularly in hockey?
It's been okay to start the season. I think, you have those hiccups early. You never really know. I think offense is usually at a premium to start in, and, you got to account for the side of things kind of settling in, which takes time, and goaltending and whatnot. There's obviously some teams having some issues, which kind of go in a couple of my early situations when you talk about teams like Edmonton that are, obviously usually heavily favored with the lines, and they haven't had a great start. Their goaltending's been a serious issue. And then, you take a team like Tampa Bay who loses Vasilevsky. I think for them, their lines are pretty inflated considering goaltending situation, even though they do still have a great team with, they're deep, they can score obviously, but that goaltending, you take Vasilevsky out of anyone's lineup, I think it's going to be a massive blow. So, I think early in the season, those are things that I've kind of been watching for, but I've been, hanging in there so far.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's kind of what it's been like for me. It's been, slower start than I would have liked. Although last night was a best night of the season for me, not even close. Even with just 2 games, it was just a spectacular night. But you're right. It's been a slower start than I would have liked. Yeah, Alex, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. So I was to say same kind of thing, but this is that time of year where you're able to pick off dogs. You're able to find value because the books haven't made, and the books have gotten a lot sharper now than ever since we've been done this program. It's 7 years now, where we could pick off a lot of soft lines early in the week because the books didn't pay attention to hockey until we look at the calendar and all of a sudden it's October and now we got to scramble to get hockey stuff going. But this stuff's been up for a while. Opening night lines were up 2 months in advance, so the books are getting sharper. It makes us have to do a little bit more work, but you still are able to find those dog prices and some, like I said, inflated favorites. Books haven't made the right change on certain things or recognize how dire a situation some things are, like Tampa Bay's goaltending, and you can find some value in that.
No question. And definitely, I think when you look, and it's a great segue, because guess what our first game is here on this Thursday slate as we get into it. It is the Tampa Bay Lightning as they host the Vancouver Canucks. We've got Tampa Bay minus 135 home favorites, 7 the total here in this game. Although it's come down a bit, I'm seeing now 6.5s mostly across the board. So we have seen that total drop a little bit. In fact, the majority of sports books now have 6.5 listed for this total. Jordan, you said it. Alex and I have been a proponent of it as well. We've been against Tampa Bay quite a bit here early in this season. And again, Andrei Vasilevsky missing is a big part of this. There is definitely a significant drop-off going from Andrei Vasilevsky, one of the best goaltenders in the NHL for many years, to Jonas Johansson and Matt Tompkins. It's just that simple. It's a massive, massive drop-off. Not only that, but I've also mentioned it's not fair to just put it all on the goaltender. I don't think personally they have the defensive forward prowess they've had in the past. They've had the Yanni Gourdes of the world and Blake Coleman and some really good two-way presences at the forward position in their bottom 6 in years past Tampa Bay. I don't think they have that anymore. I don't think they've got quite that checking, component, in their bottom 6 that they've had previously. Obviously, the offense is still something you have to be fearful of, and they do get Steven Stamkos back from a 2-game absence. He missed the last couple of games versus Ottawa and Buffalo, but he will be back in the lineup tonight for Tampa Bay, and they could use him for sure here going into this matchup. But you're right. Other than Hedman and Sergachev, and Dahan, when he's healthy, is pretty good in his own end, but you've got Perbix, you got Darren Radish, you got, Zach Bogosian's in and out, and, foot speed's a bit of an issue for him at this stage of his career. So they've had some issues in terms of keeping the puck out of the net, and the goaltenders have certainly seen a lot of rubber so far this season. Vancouver is off to a 2-1 start, 2 terrific wins against Edmonton, but I watched pretty much the majority of that Canuck Flyers game. They were not ready to go from the opening puck drop. They were dominated. They came out sluggish. Credit to the Flyers, though. That was their home opener. They had a really strong start. And then it got worse for Vancouver. I thought when they were down after the first period, they'd regroup and be better in the second period. They were actually fucking worse, believe it or not. They were hideous in the second period. I mean, it got to the point where it was like 29, I think it was 22-3 or something like that, the shots in the second period for Philadelphia. Vancouver actually had a better third, but it was too little, too late. The Flyers get the win, and that's what set off Rick Tocchet, that performance in the postgame, talking about who are we to think we're any good. We got to check ourselves and make sure some of these players don't bring another goose egg to the board. Not happy with the level of compete. He said, other than Demko, no one really gave it the best effort, the hardest work ethic in that game. So not a very happy coach, even though that was only their first loss of the year. It was just such a subpar performance, very little in terms of the, bearing down and winning battles. They lost every battle. They were running around like chickens with their heads cut off in their defensive zone throughout that game. Not impressed was Rick Tocchet. I expect a response here tonight from the Vancouver Canucks in this game. I have got a couple bets here on the Canucks side. I like the first period particularly because the start was bad the other night against Philadelphia. So Vancouver in the plus 105, plus 110 range in the first period. Got a little on that, split with the Vancouver full game money line, which is at plus 115 in this game. Although that price is dropping. I'm seeing it going down to plus 110, even some plus 105s are starting to appear now with the Canucks here, full game money line. A little on the team total as well, over 3.5. We've been going to that team total well of the opponent against Tampa Bay throughout the season. So a little bit on all three. First period money line, full game money line for Vancouver as well. And that team total over 3.5 at a nice plus price, plus 128. I was able to get with that Canucks team total. Alex, what do you think here? Canucks, Lightning.
Yeah, like you said, money's coming in on Vancouver left and right. I was lucky to grab a plus 110. That's the highest thing I'm still seeing around. But they might be a small favorite by puck drop, and it makes total sense. Like I said, this is a wake up spot for Vancouver, and we talked about it in that Vancouver Philly game with that odd start time. It was pushed back a little earlier because of all the things that were going on in Philly at that same night. But for Vancouver, they had already been on the road in Edmonton. But this was really the first part of that East Coast leg of the road trip. So that probably factored into why they were a bit sluggish. Already a weird start time, and you're crossing country as well. And the Flyers, they were able to win the game and take advantage of it, but they weren't able to take full advantage of it because they're the Philly Flyers. I think Vancouver bounces back in a big way. Like I said, I just don't trust what Tampa's doing right now. Definitely can't trust their goaltending. And if Demko, if he turns in another great start, and then the rest of the guys play even half, better than what they looked like in that Philly game, they should be able to win this one. So give me Canucks plus $1.10.
All right, Canucks plus 110 for Alex in this one. And by the way, Demko top 5 in the NHL in goals saved above average, which is a greater statistic for goaltenders. And the goals against average and save percentage are still great, and I use them. You got to use them, but goals saved above average, what's great about that stat is that it factors in the high danger chances. It factors in the highest quality looks that the opponent gets against that goalie. Demko was the only reason that was not 5 or 6-0 for Philadelphia the other night. He was really that good. And if it wasn't a team that can be offensively plotting at times like the Flyers, it really could have gotten ugly for Vancouver in that game. Jordan, what do you think here? Vancouver, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, now that you said that the line's been pushed to 6.5 on the goals, I do like that one. I think, with Rick Tocchet's message like that, you said the start will be much better for Vancouver. I think Tampa's kind of got to open it up and push for offense the way their goaltending's been going. And Vancouver, despite Demko being good, are not, a defensively sound team really for the most part either. I mean, they've gotten better under Rick Tocchet, but, for long stretches last year, they were a disaster defensively and, prone to giving up big leads and stuff like that. So, I think Tampa's got to score to win now, and I think that over 6.5 is a nice look. Personally, I like to dabble in overs in the first period as well. I think the minus 1.5 or 1.5 in the first period I think is a nice look because you want Vancouver to come out and get off to a good start and Tampa to provide that offense as well. So I think I would probably slide a little bit on that as well. This is probably going to be a high scoring game, and I think it'll probably get started pretty early.
Yeah, well, you're preaching to the choir here about first period overs, and that's something I probably would look at in this game as well. That and the full game over, but I would wait for in-game looks at this. If you're seeing a 6.5 at 130, you're 1 to 2 minutes in, you can get that 6.5 at a plus price. 3 to 4 minutes in, you're looking at 5.5, probably only laying 130. So you can wait and get it all the way down to 5.5 and lay the price you get it now, or you can grab the 6.5, but then get it at plus money, just waiting a couple minutes in game.
Yeah, no doubt. It's definitely, we preach, Jordan, all the time on the show, live betting strategy. And that if you like an over in the game, you can take your shot that we get through 4 or 5 minutes without a goal, and you'll get a better number and a better price in game with that live over. And it's something we take advantage of quite a bit. As far as the props tonight, Besser goal, Besser assist, very appealing to me. Plus 158 to get an assist, plus 210 to get a goal. He's been off to a terrific start, 4 goals, 1 assist, 5 points for the Vancouver Canucks. JT Miller, 1 goal, 3 assists. The goal prop plus 196, the assist prop plus 100. So I think the goal assist look for Miller might be a solid option. And we've got one of our famous situations here involving a player moving up the lineup for Tampa Bay. This is definitely the most value in terms of their player props tonight. Hagel and Kucherov and Point and Stamkos, obviously. They're always a threat to score and find the back of the net, get on the score sheet. But Alex Barré-Boulet is someone that John Cooper's moving up to the top line for the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight. Going to be playing alongside Point and Kucherov. And Barré-Boulet to get a goal here tonight is plus 480 at Caesars. So it's another one of those instances where you've got a guy that's playing on the top line, and his goal prop now is plus 480. And it's the kind of situations that we look for throughout the season with player props. Why do we cash Jake Sanderson to score at plus 700 last night? Because he was moving up to the number 1 power play unit. He was playing more ice time. He's got the confidence of the coaching staff. And obviously a guy like this who's been in the AHL his entire career and now is with the Lightning, made the team out of camp. Now that he's being placed on the top line, that shows you Coop has confidence in him. And that tells you that he's going to get ice time. And you can get that kind of a price with someone that's now on the top line that you don't expect to be there. Great value. Win or lose, great value with that goal prop for sure for Barré-Boulet in that game. Predators and Rangers next up. Rangers minus 190, home favorites, 6 the total here in this one. Didn't really do much with this game. Considered actually a small little dabble on the Preds here, just based on the price here, because this is that typical Ranger spot where sometimes you don't always get their best. They're off the, win against Arizona the other night, which really wasn't that pretty. They only won 2-1. It was a tight game throughout. Arizona had some really good looks to tie the game. They also had a 5-on-3 man advantage late second, early third period that they couldn't cash in on. But, Rangers didn't win that game comfortably or easily by any stretch of the imagination. One thing about Nashville, I know they're 1-3 to start the season, but the Predators have been competitive for the most part. 3-2 loss to Boston, the win against Seattle. Tampa Bay was a good effort. They're not going to like the way they played against Edmonton the other night, 6-1. That was the one game where they pretty much got their ass handed to them. But they've been competitive in every other game. And Edmonton was coming into that game, I think, definitely was something to prove, no question. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see Nashville make this a tough game on the Rangers. I don't love the team overall, but I think at this number, I could see taking a small shot with the Predators here at plus $1.60 in this game. Would certainly lean to the under as far as this total goes. This should end up being a pretty low-scoring game with 2 pretty good goaltenders. We expect Igor Shesterkin back in net for the New York Rangers. And after getting pulled against the Edmonton Oilers the other night, it was a rough first period for UC Saros. Kevin Lankinen ended up replacing him. I'd expect Saros to really look to bounce back here tonight. Hasn't been confirmed that he's in net, but I would expect him back in between the pipes tonight for Nashville. So small leans here, Nashville and under in this one for me. Alex, Predators, Rangers.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to bet this game with it being such a big card, but I would lean with the under too. And if you look at recent history, 3 of the last 4 meetings going under the total, but the last game they played, a 7-0 blowout by the Rangers. So, like you said, I could see where that's probably one of those games where you remember that, even though it's a team out of your conference in a year ago, but you remember that happening. I think they play a much tighter contest here. So maybe hope for an early goal. Maybe do the little reverse. Hope for an early goal and try to grab a 6.5 at a better price as quick as you possibly could. And that might work out. But other than that, this is probably a pass. There's other stuff I like on the card more.
All right, Jordan, how about you? Nashville, New York Rangers.
Yeah, this isn't really a game that I would get also was a smaller slate for the day. Like you said, there's a lot of games that I like in this, but I would lean towards the under for sure. It's funny that you talk about goaltending because Nashville is one of those teams with, a massive discrepancy between their starter Saros and then obviously the backup. And so, look for Saros to have a bounce back as well as the group. You give up 6, you revisit your scheme and kind of buckle down defensively after that. So, the Rangers don't score as much as everyone thinks they think either. They have high offensive players, Kreider and Zibanejad, and you look at their lineup and Panarin and guys like that, you think they should fill the net, but they don't score as much as people think. So, they're not a team that runs it up on teams too often. So, they rely on good goals and they do give up their fair share. Shesterkin is very nice in there. So, him and Saros, I would see a battle tonight, and I think it's probably going to be a low-scoring affair.
People in the chat are saying sprinkles on the draw. This actually could be a legitimate draw candidate.
Yeah, and that's another thing that's an Alex B. Smith special, Jordan. First period overs and draws have been part of the repertoire for a very long time for Alex. This does feel like, a tight game. Philip Forsberg, the over shots on goal just keeps on rolling for him. We've talked about this every Nashville game. Every game he's going over his shots on goal, player prop. Definitely, I would think that's probably worth a look here once again in this game. Thomas Novak was the one guy that got them on the board the other night against Edmonton. Talked about it. He's been undervalued for sure as far as his props go. This is a game you don't want to go, too wild as far as the player props, simply because we don't know how many goals we're going to see. But definitely keep that in mind. And by the way, congratulations as well to Will Cooley for the New York Rangers, who a couple games ago got his first NHL goal against Columbus. And he's someone that made the team out of camp. They're playing on that third line. He's been solid for the Rangers here in the early going this season. All right, Calgary Flames, Buffalo Sabres. Calgary minus 120, road favorites 7. Actually, that's not true. This total is not 7. This total is 6.5 here with the Sabres and Flames. So we will correct that. I've been looking at Buffalo as a team that has improved defensively this year a little bit with the additions of Eric Johnson and Connor Clifton on the blue line. Those are two really good veteran additions for Buffalo. Yet it's their offense that really hasn't gotten going just yet this season. Tage Thompson, I'm waiting on him to get going because I've got him to score 50 goals, and I've got him as a dark horse candidate to be the Rocket Richard Trophy winner this year. And, he's had a bit of a slow start. I'm not worried about him yet. I think he'll be fine. What I would be more worried about is that he wasn't getting the chances. He wasn't getting the looks. He is getting the chances. It's just not going in for him just yet. So I wouldn't necessarily panic yet about the drought early in the season for TNT for the Buffalo Sabres. Calgary, it looks worse that they lost to Washington, quite honestly, after Washington got buried by Ottawa last night. A Capitals team that's looked pretty dreadful here in the early going. Calgary got off to the fast start against them, 2-0 lead. And then you end up seeing Washington come back, tie the game, and then Washington wins it in a shootout. Calgary just lacking the finish again in that game to get that third goal. We saw that all of last year. 30 shots, 40 shots on goal in a lot of games, and not enough offense, not enough finish. And that was definitely in Calgary's game a little bit on Monday night. Same thing with the Pittsburgh game, where they had the early lead. They couldn't add on to their lead. The goals dried up again. Are we going to have the same issue? I thought with Ryan Huska, instead of Daryl Sutter, he'd let the horses out of the stable, if you will, and play a little more aggressive, let the D jump into the play. And they are trying to play that way a little faster under Ryan Huska, but it hasn't resulted yet in a better offensive output for the Flames. We'll see if that can improve here tonight against Buffalo. It's a tricky game because I still think of Calgary as a team I'm going to be looking to bet on, improved from last year because they get the stench of Sutter out of there. And you definitely have, I think a better dressing room environment. Huberdeau, Kadri, we're waiting on them to get going, thinking they would have bounce back seasons. Really, it's been Mangiapane, Dubé, guys like that have been carrying it for the Flames. Coronado as well, who has a goal for the Flames so far this season. But they need their big guns to step up and get going a little bit. This is one I don't have anything in overly strong as of right now. I feel one of these games with these two teams, because I think Calgary's going to improve their pace this year, little more aggressive, have their blue liners jump into the play. One of their games eventually is going to go over, and they're going to have a big offensive night. And I kind of feel Buffalo is sitting on one of these nights where eventually the puck's going to really start going in for them, because they've just been on the precipice here of one of these big offensive nights where the output is there, and they finally just see them finish off their chances. So I think I might bite for a small bet over 6.5, but it's nothing I'm overly big on as far as this game goes. What do you think here, Alex? Flames and Sabres.
No, this is a complete observation game because, like I said, these are two teams that I thought would be playing better hockey right now. Just where they are in the current form. I'm not a fan of where they're standing right now, especially with Buffalo. I thought Buffalo would be getting off on a roll immediately, something we've seen them do in previous years. So like I say, this is a big wake up game for both teams. So yeah, gut feeling would say the over. Maybe I'll watch it, and if I see the pace I like, I'll look for something live. But yeah, this is a game I want to see. I want to see improvement from both teams on both sides, and that's just going to take more watching the game and just not having even an opinion as far as a betting opinion goes.
All right, Jordan, what do you think here? Calgary, Buffalo.
Yeah, for Alex's live first period overs in this game, Calgary is not a team that you can really bet the live first period over because they give so many goals so early. You can't even really wait on them, right? So, I mean, if Ladar's he usually has better starts than Markstrom has historically over the last, season and change here. But, you got to look out for Markstrom and net and for some reason giving up a goal on that first shot, right? So, obviously first period over, I would think I might throw a little bit on. And like you said, these teams could go off for 9-10 goals easily, but they've both kind of struggled out of the gates, so you don't know what you're going to get. I think Tage Thompson is due. He'd be a guy to look at a side prop. Obviously, shots on goal, he's definitely a shooter. He's still getting them, so look for him to maybe get one tonight. And then probably both teams to score in the first. Like you said, with Calgary giving up the early goals, and then Buffalo. I mean, Devin Levi is good. I think he will be good. I think he's having his NHL growing pains. Obviously, he's still a young kid, and he hasn't been there. And Buffalo is still a bit of a work defensively, right? They've gotten better, but they're still not quite there yet. So, both teams to score first period maybe, and depending on the goaltending situation, I'm not a huge proponent of Eric Comrie or Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen to carry the mail for Buffalo long term either. So, there could be some issues there. So, I might look at something like that, but you definitely got to get on it before the game if you're going to bet Calgary first periods, because it comes out early usually for them.
Excellent points for sure. Really and a great thing to mention too about that, like I said, with kind of with Buffalo, like I said, shifting around things, it's kind of hard. You got teams carrying these three goalies, and how are they going to really balance that? Montreal, I didn't realize Montreal was doing the same thing as well. So trying to find that rhythm, whoever the third man is, whenever they get their start, that's going to be something to really kind of signify until they make a move and send someone down. So that's another key point to make. Like I said, these are teams you would want to jump on this early rather than later. And like I said, we try to identify that. Calgary was that team all last year, and that still could continue into this year. So excellent point.
No doubt. There's some value in the props too. Ruzicka, I cashed a plus 650 on him to score the other night. Why? Because he went to the second line. He got moved up. You got to look at these opportunities when they present themselves. Guys that are moving up the lineup. He's got a goal and 2 assists. Adam Ruzicka here for the Calgary Flames. He's going to be on the second line again for them here tonight in this game. It's great prop value as far as I'm concerned. And again, you're talking in the plus 560 range. They've dropped the price a little bit, but that's still a terrific price there on him. Dubé and Mangiapane, by the way. Dubé's got a goal and an assist, 2 points, but Mangiapane in particular, 2 goals, 2 assists for him. He's in the plus 260 to score a goal range, plus 215 to get an assist, for a guy that's got a couple already. So there's great value there as far as Calgary is concerned with a couple of their player props. Buffalo, meanwhile, it looks like tonight Peyton Krebs has moved up to the second line. Now, the risk with taking him, even though he's moving up to the second line, is he's got no points on the season. So he hasn't really gotten it going yet, but plus 675 when he's playing on on that second line for Buffalo tonight, alongside Dylan Cousins and JJ Paterka on that second line. So, I look at that as potentially a situation where maybe playing with that line gets him going a little bit. Obviously, Don Granato's kind of playing a hunch there with that. So not a bad option. I like what I'm seeing out of their first round pick, 18 years old, Zach Benson. And, I see really good things from him. He's got a couple of assists here in the first 3 games. And I've been impressed with just the overall hockey IQ and the sense, and he knows where to go on the ice to get chances. Sets up his teammates. He's a good facilitator. So I was really impressed here early on with Zach Benson's game. We'll see if he can keep it going for them. So, his prop, even to get I don't think his point props are available. If you're going to take him, you got to look at the goal prop. He hasn't scored yet, but I think one of these nights he might, plus 440. No harm in maybe a couple of bucks throwing it on that. Toronto and Florida next up. Playoff rematch, of course, from the second round last year. We've got the Leafs -130 road favorites, 6.5 to being the total in this game. Florida, a bad start for them until the other night. They played New Jersey. And they got themselves off the schneid with actually a very good performance. I will give them that. Team that I've been targeting as a bet against team early in the season, saying, well, A, they're not going to duplicate the run to the Stanley Cup final last year, and B, just not having Aaron Ekblad and Brandon Montour. By far the 2 best defensemen on this team at both ends of the ice. They're great in terms of zone exits, getting those rush started up the ice, and they're very good in their own end taking care of that too. And so no Ekblad and Montour, I figured, was going to be a massive problem early in the season for Florida. And they are still struggling back there. I like Gus Forsling, but after that, you've got Mahura, you've got Mikkola, you've got Oliver, as Don Cherry calls him, Lossum Tossum, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. You just don't see, and he's playing on the top pairing. I mean, I would have wanted Oliver Ekman-Larsson on my top pair 5-6 years ago. Not in 2023. That is not what I'm looking to see. And I get worried about that and the state of this Florida blue line right now. You got a Toronto team that there's a couple things that I like for them tonight. They weren't happy with the performance against Chicago. Another one of those laying of an eggs at home on a weeknight in that brutal environment. No atmosphere, no ambiance at all at Scotiabank Arena. The crowd just sits on their hands the whole game. Dead silence, which people have been ripping the Toronto home crowds for, rightfully so. It's just way too quiet in there. And Toronto falls victim to Chicago. They weren't happy with their effort and their performance. Now they get on the road for the first time this year. Camaraderie, team comes together. Toronto's actually been a pretty good road team under Sheldon Keefe since he's been the head coach. And now you get to play the team that knocked you out in the second round pretty unceremoniously as well. 5 games, just like that. Leaf fans didn't even have any fucking time to cheer the Tampa Bay first round winning a series for the first time in 19 years. 5 days later, they were out pretty much against the Florida Panthers, or a week later. So, Toronto's got this spot circled. After the Chicago game, they want to play better. So I like Toronto in a couple different forms here. I'm going to take the plus 165 first period puck line here on Toronto to come out with that strong start, -0.5, plus 165. For the Leafs, I should say, the Leafs, not the Panthers, the Leafs. Toronto -130, the full game money line, a little bit on the team total, over 3.5 for the Leafs. And I like what Keefe's doing with the lineup too tonight. Matthew Knies has had a slow start, but I don't think he's been put in the best position to succeed offensively. Tonight, they're putting Matthew Knies with John Tavares and William Nylander. I think that's got the potential to be a really good line. Marner, Matthews, and Bertuzzi, I've had no complaints. Calle Yarncroke moves down with Fraser Minton and Max Domi on the third line. So definitely keep an eye on that. Sheldon Keefe did this to try to generate more offense. Wasn't thrilled with it in the Chicago game. So keep an eye on that. So Toronto money line, Toronto first period puck line, team total over 3.5 as well. Total, I lean 6.5 to the over, but might wait for a live line and get a better price on that 6.5 in this game. And it looks like it's Samsonov in net, as I'd expect for the Leafs, and once again Sergei Bobrovsky for the Florida Panthers, who's not quite been the goalie Bob that we saw in the playoffs last year. A lot more beatable so far here in the early part of the season for Florida, and it's understandable too as to why that blue line is just not as good in front of him right now with no Ekblad and no Montour. What do you think here, Alex? Leafs, Panthers?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I love the Leafs in this spot. Like I said, this is a revenge spot and a bounce back spot at the same time. So those are always nice to have kind of collide together. You get that every now and then early in the season. I went and grabbed the regulation price at plus $1.05 earlier on Toronto. 130 is not bad. I wouldn't mind that, but because it's a bigger card, I'm going to have quite a bit in action. So I'd rather try to lay as less juice as possible. So Leafs should win this one. If you have fewer plays, go with the just standard money line, lay the 130. If you got a bigger card tonight, like I think most of us do, take it, play it a little safer, just go regulation plus 105.
Yeah, all right. And another element that's maybe kind of pro Leafs and anti Panthers in this game, and it's early in the season, but so the first home game off a road trip spot isn't always that bad, but that's always a little something that would concern you here too about Florida. What do you think here, Jordan? Leafs and Panthers?
Yeah, I like the over as well. Florida's having a tough in the puck out, as you mentioned. The D is just banged up like crazy, and it's tough. And Bobrov's summoned up a pretty big playoff run there. I'm not sure if he's capable of pulling that for an entire 82 games this year. It takes a lot out of a guy to make a run like that. And I think that the added pressure of the banged up D-core is really going to affect him. But I'm really the greatest guy to ask about the Leafs because I have like a personal betting vendetta against the Leafs. I just for whatever reason, every time I bet a game with them involved, I come out on the wrong side. It's insane.
We all
It's
have
got to
teams
be
like that.
It's got to be like 20 straight games for some reason. And I still somehow sprinkle on them every now and then. And I get disappointed every game. And it's just so I'm trying my best to stay off of their games completely right now. Cause for whatever reason, bet them, I would mush Florida would win. And if I decide to go, against them, they would come up with one of those games where they just, fill the net and run away with it. So, the Leafs are a bit of a block on the betting side for whatever reason. They just, I don't know, me and them don't go together, but I guess, hopefully we can find it at some point soon here. Cause I do enjoy watching their games. They play high event hockey and, they're exciting to watch, and it's always nice to a little bit more something on there too.
There's always teams like that, Jordan, in every sport for me. It's not just hockey, NFL, NBA, the other sports, college basketball, college football, go on down the list. There's teams that I bet on them. They don't show up. I bet against them. And they're putting up and they're going up and down the field or scoring a bunch of goals, whatever the case may be. There's always those teams that you don't have that great read on them. And as someone that's been in the business now full time for a decade, there's always a team of that type every year. In every sport, and it's not because
sometimes
you don't know it, but it's just you just don't have that feel for that team.
Yeah.
And
I was gonna say sometimes it can last for a season. Sometimes it can be teams. I remember going way back, even before I started doing this as a career. West Virginia, the Mountaineers in college football. It seemed like every time I was either on them or against them, I was losing. If I had an over, it went under. If I had an under, it went way over. So it's just teams like that in all sports.
Yeah,
West
they're
Virginia,
definitely my team for sure.
I lost a heartbreak with West Virginia. Brought back bad memories of that Houston game last week. The fucking Hail Mary at the end of it. That was absolutely painful. And the idiot quarterback, Garrett Green, celebrates without his helmet on with 10 seconds. There's 10 seconds to go in the game, moron. Maybe keep it under wraps. They haven't won the game yet. And sure enough, they go down the field, Houston. They get the Hail Mary touchdown pass, and the Houston Cougars beat West Virginia on that Thursday night last week. That was painful for me. Very, very painful. All right, Oilers and Flyers. We've got the Oilers minus 200 road favorites, 6.5 being the total in this one. Not really much here. I'm happy that Edmonton came through for me the other night. It was a great spot to back Edmonton against Nashville. After the two losses to Vancouver, going on the road, facing the Predators, a team that they're better than, and a team they dominated, and they did it again 6-1 with that win over Nashville. I think they can go on a nice little run here on this road trip. They're certainly better than Philadelphia, but don't want to lay minus 200. No, maybe if you're going to bet Edmonton, I will say this. If you like Edmonton, when they win the majority of their games, they're scoring 4 goals. And that their team total is going to be 3.5, and it's 3.5 minus 142. So if you like Edmonton, take their team total over 3.5 -142, as opposed to money line -200. So that would be the best option if you like the Edmonton side. I do think they win, but I'm not comfortable taking them in this spot. And I do want to also bring your attention to the fact that they did play in Philly last year and they lost to the Flyers 2-1. So this is not a great, this is not a slam dunk spot for the Oilers, even though they are the better of these two teams. And I'm going to give the Flyers a ton of credit. That home opener against Vancouver, they were ready for it. They were dialed in from the opening puck drop. They were dominant in that game. They were better than Vancouver start to finish. They played a really good game. And, maybe this home ice, they're going to be a tough out. And, with this Edmonton team, sometimes we've seen it with them, flighty at times. And like I said, they went to Philly and lost last year. I'm not comfortable with the Oilers in this spot enough to back them. I lean Oilers team total over, but nothing that I'm overly excited about. Alex, Oilers, Flyers.
Yeah, this is one of those other games I'm passing too. I mean, like I said, nothing. Edmonton's already at that point where they're going to be inflated, right off the jump, and then off of a big win, they're always super inflated. And the Flyers, you can't trust them in any form or fashion. You can't back them to score you goals. You can't back them to win. You can't really even back them to play well enough defensively to look at it under. So this is a completely pass game for me.
All right, Jordan, how about you? Oilers, Flyers.
Yeah, not on this either. The Oilers are, their lines are insane most of the time like this. And it's just, for a team that has struggled out of the gate at a -200 line is very, very steep. Although, if I was going to put a little on it, it might be on the puck line just because I don't really think much of Philly at all. They're kind of right where they're supposed to be as far as their plan. And I think they'll be selling some guys off throughout the year if there's trades available to be made. So, it's tough because you look at the props and it's, Connor and Leon and the lines on those are just terrible for the most part too, right? You see, Connor's line is like higher to get 2 points than it is for most guys to even touch the sheet or shot props or anything like that, right? Like it's just, as they should be, because he's probably going to take off here right away at national game. I think, they're primed to start scoring here pretty soon and that'll come. But yeah, team total, like you said, they win games and they win games big usually. So I would lean maybe team total and puck line if you were looking to get a little extra.
It's true. Look at one win. I'm going to keep track of this. How many wins in their wins? How many times does Edmonton score at least 4 goals in their wins? I would say like at least 80 to 90% of the time. To me, I just don't envision Edmonton as being one of those teams where they win a game scoring 3 goals or less. So that is definitely going to be something to monitor, because I know last year the majority of their wins, they were scoring at least 4 goals. And like I said, with them being such a heavily priced favorite, if you're going to like Edmonton and look to bet Edmonton, you take the team total over, because the majority of their wins, they're going to score 4 goals, which would cash the team total. So that's definitely, I think, the way you would want to approach it on their side for sure. All right, LA Kings, Minnesota Wild. We've got -110 here, even money both sides. 6 the total in this game. I cashed a ticket with the LA Kings the other night against Winnipeg. I figured after 2 home losses against really good competition, Colorado and Carolina, no shame for the Kings losing either of those games. It was a good spot, getting on the road, getting away from home, an 0-2 start to really focus, really, really bring a complete effort both ends of the ice. And they did that against Winnipeg. Very, very dominant 5-1 victory. They were better defensively, even tighter defensively in front of Cam Talbot, who had by far his best game of the season for the Kings. He kind of struggled in the first couple times we saw him, but was a lot better against Winnipeg the other night. And I think this road trip's a good thing for LA. They can get a little momentum. And again, you get the team, they spend a lot more time together, the players on the road, of course, than they do at home. And that's usually a good thing for a team. I think they can carry that momentum forward here tonight against the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota is one of those teams that this year, you see how they've started. They beat Florida, shut them out 2-0. But as we've mentioned, the Panthers have their issues this season, especially on the blue line. They lose to Toronto after that, 7-4, and then they beat Montreal 5-2, but they always beat Montreal. They've dominated the Canadiens. So really we've seen the Wild beat a undermanned Florida team and Montreal so far we saw what happened against the best team they played, Toronto. They had a tough time defensively. They weren't able to get the job done there. Like I say, I like what I saw from the Kings against Winnipeg. I think they can carry that momentum forward here to tonight in this matchup against the Minnesota Wild. And it is worth noting the LA Kings have won 3 of the last 5 meetings head-to-head against the Wild as well. So I like LA here. The Kings -110. Sometimes it's just as straightforward as I think the Kings are a better team this year than the Minnesota Wild. I think on this road trip, you could see them build off some momentum they got in that win against Winnipeg. And I think they can carry that over here to this game. Goaltenders for this game, by the way, we do have them confirmed. Cam Talbot, once again, for the Kings, as you would have expected. And going back to Marc-Andre Fleury. How about that? After he got the win for Minnesota against Montreal, not going back to Philip Gustafsson, but rather sticking with Marc-Andre Fleury here in this game. And Alex mentioned it to me before the show, and it's an angle to consider here. It didn't end well with Cam Talbot in Minnesota. It really did not. And this could be a situation where Cam Talbot really has something to prove and an axe to grind here tonight against the Minnesota Wild as he makes this first start against them since things really fell apart. I mean, he was fed up with the situation. Guerin and him kind of, butted heads, down the stretch. So this is a spot where I think Cam Talbot, you talk about motivation to beat a single team. Talbot's got it tonight for the LA Kings. There's no question. So I like LA here, -110. Alex, Kings and Wild.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like the Kings, $1.10. I was a little split on this game earlier in the day because I know, like I said, these two teams do battle each other fairly well. But like I said, LA's gotten the better of Minnesota in recent history, and that's a huge angle. Like I said, with Cam Talbot, imagine he's playing with this Wild team. They're cruising along. They're having a great year. He's the number one guy. All of a sudden, now we're going to start shuffling things around. And he basically gets pushed out. Then he goes to Ottawa. And then he gets hurt. And he deals with all these injury issues. And his age, you wonder, can your career keep going? Are you still going to be in the NHL? He gets the call from LA, gets signed, and now he's back coming here to St. Paul in this game. I think he's going to have a phenomenal game, and I think he's going to steer LA to a victory here. So it's a good price, -$1.10. Like you said, it's kind of paper, victories for the Wild. I was on that game against Florida. I was on the game against Montreal too. But they weren't impressive victories. Like I said, and these weren't the higher quality teams. Minnesota's taking that step up here, and I think LA stops them at home tonight.
Yeah, you're right. There were times against the Montreal Canadiens where they were okay, but they weren't phenomenal. And Montreal was horrendous in that game. It is worth saying Montreal was absolutely horrendous in that hockey game. It was just brutal. They gave up. To tell you how bad Montreal was, especially in the start, how do you give up 2 shorties on the same power play? Montreal did that in the first period. 2 shorthanded goals for Montreal, or for Minnesota rather, to make it 2-0, and they came on the same power play, the very same Montreal power play. So absolutely brutal start for Montreal, and they never recovered. Rich H., one of our great viewers and listeners, part of the family plan as well, great comment, apparently. And this is apparently something he read and heard. Marc-Andre Fleury and friends partied after the Montreal win. Of course, back home. Yeah, not a great recipe for success tonight, in my opinion. Yeah,
he had about 30 like friends and family with him, and they were taking pictures and stuff after the game and different stuff. And yeah, so just the high of that win, not necessarily. Well, he was, he's still hung over, days later, but the high of that win. That could be just kind of a big come down. That's a big emotional moment for him. And now you just got to go back to, regular old back in St. Paul against the Kings. Maybe it's just not the same kind of emotion and fire, certainly like playing in your hometown for possibly the last time of your career.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. And of course, that could have been his last game in Montreal too, which made that event the other night even more important and emotional as to why all his family and friends were there watching when Marc-Andre Fleury played in Montreal the other night. So definitely something. I'm a little perplexed, actually, especially knowing that Dean Evison is actually starting him tonight and didn't go back to Gustafsson. Give Fleury another couple of days even to maybe get wrapped back around to playing hockey again. We'll see, but we'll see how it works out. Jordan, what do you think here? LA, Minnesota.
Yeah, I like the Talbot angle for sure. I had that in my note, something that kind of unceremoniously in Minnesota, and he's a nice fit. I think a guy that's looking to become a number one goalie again and thinks he still is a number one goalie. And LA as a team that has some question marks for sure. They're deep. Up front, I think Minnesota's more of a one-line team with Kaprizov and Zuccarello there. I think that, the center depth with Kopitar and Deneau with LA, I think they have shut down guys there. I think a team deep offensively like Minnesota, will have trouble kind of breaking. And Talbot's kind of starting to play a little bit better, right? They went to Copley early and he did not play well to start the year. And now Talbot's kind of trying to find his group. Interesting on Fleury there. He's a guy I'm going to keep my eye on throughout the year for sure, being, I guess after the other night, 8 or 9 wins away from second all time. And he's a big game goalie, right? So, I think that Montreal, not because Montreal was bad, so, going in there, I think was a safe bet for them. And I think as he creeps closer to that win milestone, I would be betting him on, save props and also wins for Minnesota. He's a guy that takes a lot of pride in that. And I think he's a gamer. So once he gets close to that milestone, you can bet on him having some big games around that time, but that'll come here in a few weeks, probably. Right now, I think LA is a pretty nice bet here. I think they're starting to find their groove and they're going to will be right in the mix, and that Pacifics get off to a little bit of a slow start as well.
All right, Jordan on board with the LA Kings as well. As far as props go, Byfield's got value still, even though he's still stuck on the one goal. He's got value as long as he's on that top line. Kempe is going to get going at some point. I think it could be tonight. And Kevin Fiala for the Kings too. Let's not forget old ex-Minnesota Wild. I think this is a good night to look at some Fiala props here for the Kings tonight. Goal prop plus 230, assist prop plus 114. Very interested in Kevin Fiala here tonight for the LA Kings against his old team. And then on the Minnesota side, I do want to bring up someone in particular here for Minnesota. I've got to Sam Walker. That's who it is. Samuel Walker's been called up by the Wild, and not only called up and playing tonight, but in the second line for the Minnesota Wild. So giving him an opportunity. This is a guy that scored a bunch in the AHL level. It doesn't mean it's going to translate right away to the NHL level, but I'm talking about someone now that's been able to score goals in the American Hockey League, is playing on the second line, going to get a good look and a good amount of ice time, and he's plus 490 to score a goal tonight. Samuel Walker here for the Minnesota Wild. So just a little, flyer maybe on him for Minnesota tonight. Jordan, you wanted to mention something about Kempe. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking on Kempe. I forgot to mention, no goals yet this year. A guy that you could pencil in for 40 once it's going. So, I think I'd look for him to get off the schneid here pretty quickly. I think it might be a nice night for him to get after it. And like you mentioned, Walker, he's kind of in the same situation as Boulet for Tampa there, a guy that's put up big numbers in the American Hockey League. And, sometimes when you see those guys get called up, they get put in the bottom six, and that's not really good for the way that they play, right? They're offensive guys, and they need to be put with players that can play at an offense. So, similar to Barry, I think Walker, if you put him with offensive players, he's going to have much more asset and maybe a guy that can sneak one there for sure at good value.
All right, good stuff. All right, we move along. Arizona and St. Louis Coyotes. It's actually even money here pretty much. Minus 110 both sides, 6 being the total here in this game. Arizona, great start in their first game of the season at New Jersey, a very good Devils team. They get off to the quick early lead. New Jersey battles back, then Arizona ties it, and they eventually win in a shootout. But since then, a couple of tough losses for Arizona against the 2 New York teams, losing to the Rangers and the Islanders after that. But pretty tough. They play those games, 3 games in 4 nights. Now you've at least got a couple of days off now, and you get to take on probably the weakest team you've played so far this season here, the St. Louis Blues. I like Arizona in this spot. Minus 110, plus 100 actually is out there. In some spots as well. But no, I like Arizona in this spot. And what's funny? St. Louis opened minus 130 home favorites in this game. This has been a decent move toward Arizona as far as the money move, and I agree with it here. And Connor Ingram is in net. Normally that would concern me in the past, but he's gotten better. He had a good preseason. He's not the reason they lost when he got his first start of the season against the Islanders on Saturday night. He was steady. I actually trust him a little more than Joel Hofer. Joel Hofer had a couple of good starts, but he also had some terrible ones as well. You can see consistency for him is going to be an issue. And Joel Hofer does have the net tonight for the St. Louis Blues. A little bit surprising just because Binnington's been red hot. Maybe Craig Berube looking to ride Binnington, who's gotten off to a terrific start, which is good to see after a down year for him. But opting to go with the young kid Joel Hofer in net. I like Arizona here, -110. I do like the over a little bit here as well, 6, -110 to -115. I think Arizona, too. Think about this schedule. They played New Jersey, high-scoring affair. They played a stodgy, more defensive-minded Rangers team, because I think New York's going to be a little more defensive-minded, the Rangers under Laviolette, than in years past. And I don't know if they have the offensive depth either that they've had in years past. And we know what the Islanders are going to do. They're going to drag everybody into a low-scoring game. So now Arizona gets to play a St. Louis team that I don't trust as much defensively. And now you get a St. Louis with Hofer in net instead of Binnington. So I think it's an opportunity for Arizona to flex the muscles offensively a little bit here in this game after some stodgy, slower hockey games the last couple of nights. So I like Arizona to get the win. And I like this game to go over the total. And if you actually look at Arizona-St. Louis last year, man, we had a couple of crazy games as far as goals. A couple of games that were really wildly high scoring. 6-2 Arizona in the desert. Then there was a 6-5 game in St. Louis. I mean, you had a couple of really high scoring affairs last year. So hopefully more of the same tonight. I like this over as well. Alex, Coyotes and Blues.
Yeah, ever since these two teams had became division opponents, and it goes back to even that year with the shortened pandemic schedule. They were in the West, and then they both moved back to the Central when Seattle comes in. They've always played this higher up-tempo hockey against one another. Like I said, Arizona's been a lot of a couple of dogfights so far. They now get to open things up. St. Louis will now at least try to open things up. They'll at least have the space. I don't think they have the talent to keep up with in Arizona, honestly. So I like the over. I'm laying the 130 with the first period 1.5 pregame. And I'm waiting for a live over 5.5 at plus money in game. So I'm taking care of the first period now in case there is an early goal, but I'm trying to wait and hopefully I'll have the first period over and then looking to grab a better price and number in game with that full over.
All right, good stuff. Indeed, like a nice live betting approach there for Alex. Jordan, Arizona, St. Louis.
Yeah, Arizona's a scrappy team. I think they're a little bit underrated kind of going into the season, which I mean, in the long term, probably isn't great for them because as an organization, they'd probably like to be, in that lottery pick for, a selling or something like that, right? And they kind of add to that young player arsenal that they have. But you know what? On the road, I tend to stay off of them a little bit more on the road just because, Mullet Arena has been really kind to them over, the course their start there. And I think they're a real scrappy team there. But I don't think St. Louis is up to too much this year either. They're kind of getting older. They're slow. I feel like they don't play with much pace. But if I was going to do anything on this game, it would probably be, maybe some player. I like Dursey. I think he's been a nice fit for Arizona, and I think getting those prime offensive minutes on the power play and everything like that, they've kind of, turned him loose and let him do his thing, and he's a real offensive defenseman, so he'd be a nice guy to scrape up some kind of point prop, or even Logan Cooley's starting to settle in. I know he got off to a great start in the first game and he's kind of cooled since then, but St. Louis would be a prime team for him the way that he plays with pace and likes to get to the net. I think it'd be a nice fit for him in this situation.
Agree with that. I mean, Logan Cooley is someone that I have been targeting as far as props from the very beginning, and I've been impressed. It doesn't look to me like the NHL overwhelms him, even though he's only 19 years old, trying to play the center ice position. I mean, he's got 3 points in the first 3 games. So it looks like he has definitely settled in nicely. And although I do think he's close to getting that first goal, I've said this, and now you're going to have probably the weakest defensive matchup as a team that Arizona's had this season. So I think it's a great opportunity for Logan Cooley to get that first goal, plus 310 at DraftKings. I'm going to put a little something on that. Definitely the assist prop, plus 155. All 3 of his points have been assists so far. and his assist prop is plus 155. A really nice price there as far as Logan Couture. And by the way, the Italian stallion here for Arizona, Matias Michelli, he's moved up to the second line tonight. So there is some value, I think, with him tonight, possibly, as far as a goal prop plus 430, assist prop plus 155. Keep an eye on Matias Michelli. He's also going to get power play time as well for the Arizona Coyotes. Jordan mentioned Sean Dursey from the back end, who got a goal in the first game of the season for the New Jersey Devils. Nice addition. So some props of value on the Arizona side. I think for St. Louis, when you look at their lineup, Kairu's always worth a look. Robert Thomas, I think, is someone that's going to have a good season, a better season. So those are two guys to target. And here's another one in the case of someone moving up the lineup here. Alexei Toropchenko for the Blues is going to play on the second line tonight. And that's going to be a bit of a greater opportunity and more ice time for him. So Toropchenko plus 575 to score a goal. A little value because of that second line appearance for him. So plus 575 on Toropchenko to score a goal. Again, playing on the second line for St. Louis tonight with Schenn and Kapanen. So, and Schenn, of course, was a great choice for captain, as I've said many times, the perfect captain type of material for the St. Louis Blues. All right, Vegas, Winnipeg. We've got Vegas minus 115, road favorite, 6 the total in this one. I took a shot with Dallas the other night against Vegas because, they got beat by Vegas in the Western Conference Final. And I'll tell you what, Dallas looked like they had that game in hand, 2-1 lead late. Vegas ties it up, though, with a few minutes to go. And then they end up winning in a shootout, 3-2. They just keep finding ways to win right now, the Vegas Golden Knights. And look, I took my one shot against them, and it fell short. I ain't willing to go back to the well against Vegas here tonight against the Winnipeg Jets. That being said, this dangerous spot for Vegas for a couple of reasons. Winnipeg's off a bad game against LA. They weren't happy about it. They'll play better. They are capable of it. They have played Vegas tough in the past. And, of course, we've got another interesting goaltender angle to consider here. Laurent Brossoit, backup in Vegas last year. It started in the playoffs for them. Remember, he was the guy that got the first playoff starts for the Vegas Golden Knights last year in their run to the Stanley Cup. But then he got injured. Aiden Hill takes over, and the rest was history. And the next thing you know, Laurent Brossoit is not retained by the Golden Knights. He ends up going back to Winnipeg and backing up Connor Hellebuck again. And it's Laurent Brossoit who's going to get the start tonight. And I figured Bonus was going to go in this direction, give Brossoit a start and a chance to face his former team. So Brossoit will be amped up. He wants to play well tonight against the Vegas Golden Knights. I lean to the under here. I mean, Vegas has just been an under machine again to begin the season. This blue line is just amazing what they continue to do. There's Pietrangelo, Whitecloud, Martinez, all missing to begin the year. And this Braden Pahal kid steps in. You don't notice much of a drop-off. And Caden Korchak, first NHL goal the other night against Dallas. He's also on the blue line now, filling in because of all these injuries. And these guys don't look out of place. The depth on this team, up front and especially on the blue line, it's incredible. That's why Vegas is where they are in the NHL pecking order. They got terrific depth. I ain't going against them again, but Brossoit's going to want to play well, and this will be a tough game for them. I think they'll probably still win it, but I don't feel comfortable with either side in this game. I'll just lean to the under in it. What do you think here, Alex? Golden Knights, Jets.
I finally got shit out of my eyes now. I can focus a little bit better. This is going to be a fun game. And, you mentioned Laurent Brossoit was already declared to start this game a couple of days in advance. He was the one who actually told the media that he was starting. It's funny to see that breaking where the quote was Laurent Brossoit starting, source Laurent Brossoit. But obviously going up against his old team, and I'm sure there's going to be a bit of emotions, right? Because you're playing with your original team in essence, but the guys you just battled and won a cup with and played all year are up against you. I think he's definitely going to be fired up and motivated. Like I said, it's a tricky spot for Vegas. How long can you continue to just keep winning? And this is a Winnipeg team that I had seriously underrated. Going into the season, we also were thinking that this is a team that's probably preparing for a rebuild. They're going to move Scheifele. They're going to move Hellebuck. Once they sign those guys, everything's changed. And now Winnipeg's kind of in that spot. I was saying this to Ian before the show. This is where I thought Minnesota would be. Winnipeg's kind of taking that spot, is that, they're good enough to be a playoff team in the Central, but they're not Colorado or Dallas level. And so they made a big step up. So I like the draw here at plus 320. I think this is going to be a good goaltender battle, and this might be the night Vegas takes a loss, but I don't think it's going to happen within 60 minutes.
That's a good call. We saw overtime with Vegas against Dallas, of course, the other night, and I could see this being a competitive game either way. So the draw at plus 320, game to go to overtime, definitely a game where it feels like that is a possibility. Jordan, what do you think here? Vegas, Winnipeg.
Yeah, definitely no hangover for Vegas. They've looked great to start the year. I think, it's an interesting point with Brossoit because, he's moved on back to Winnipeg where he was comfortable, and that team is with him in net as well, right? He had some great numbers a couple years ago, back up to Hellebuck when Hellebuck had his Vezina year. I think, Brossoit was very, very good for them. And I think they have confidence when he's in net. And obviously he's looking for some revenge, and it's maybe some mixed feelings there about you win a Stanley Cup, but you probably think you should be a little bit bigger part of the success there. So it'll be interesting line there. I just don't think that Winnipeg has depth to keep up with Vegas, especially up front. You've got new deal. He's looked okay. And Connor is, a guy you can count on to chip in every night. But, a guy like Nick Ehlers, he leaves you wanting more and more and more all the time, it seems like, because he's had flashes of being a very, very great player in the league and able to score at will sometimes, but then he just disappears for long stretches. So, you're not really sure what you're going to get from him. And after that, it drops off pretty significantly big. So, I don't think scoring enough to get by Vegas, and it may be a bit of a trap, but I also like anytime I can get a team like Vegas at this close to money, with the lines that they've been coming out with lately. It's usually pretty heavy since they've been such a good team for a while. To get them close to plus money against a Jets team that I don't think is quite there yet, I think would be pretty attractive to me.
Definitely. This is one of those games where props, I'm going to be pumping the brakes a little bit because I think it's probably going to be a little bit of a tighter game. I think goaltending will be strong, both sides. And Logan Thompson, by the way, I should point out, is in net for Vegas tonight. But Logan Thompson looked very good in his previous start, and every time he takes the net, he's going to really be focused and dialed in because he wants more starts. He doesn't want Aiden Hill to get 80% of the starts, so it's a good thing. This is good for Vegas. They've got Aiden Hill is obviously the number one, but they've got a very capable backup in Logan Thompson. He looks healthy. He's going to want to play very well. So definitely. Yeah, that's a good point, Cuban Wayne Gretzky, about Adam Lowry. Adam Lowry, for some reason, when Winnipeg plays Vegas, he seems to find a way to put the puck in the net. So I think there is some value on Adam Lowry. And the captain of the team, after a brutal game against LA the other night, he's showing up tonight. Make no mistake about it. He shows up every night, but he really, really shows up in these spots. Team was just dreadful against LA for the most part. And you're right, there is that track record of Adam Lowry being able to score and produce against Vegas. So the goal prop, the assist prop on him, plus 475, score a goal, plus 250 to get an assist. There's some value there. He is definitely one that will show up tonight, win or lose, for the Winnipeg Jets. No question about that. Dallas, Anaheim. We've got Dallas minus 260, road favorite, 6 the total here in this one. You got the Dallas Stars off a tough overtime loss to the Vegas Golden Knights, going on the road now. In theory, they should beat Anaheim, but Anaheim won their home opener against a very good Carolina team after a tough loss and to Vegas the previous night against the Golden Knights. They've had a little bit of rest as well. And we're going to see the debut of the number 2 overall pick in this year's draft. Leo Carlsson is ready to go. Missed the first couple of games due to injury, but he will make his NHL debut here tonight for the Anaheim Ducks. Very, very excited to see how he plays in his very first NHL game. From all indications, yes, he's got the offensive capabilities, good on the face-off dot, can score goals, facilitate, good passer, but he's already an above-average defensive player and probably only going to get better. The guy that, Leo Carlsson's game is being compared to the likes of Patrice Bergeron, for example, a very, very strong two-way center. So very, very excited to see Carlson in action for the first time here tonight against the Dallas Stars in NHL action. Very interesting game. I think this is a tricky game. Don't get you better bring your best here if you're Dallas, because Anaheim showed you against Carolina on Sunday night. At home in particular, with this improving young core that they've got. Troy Terry, Trevor Zegras, Mason McTavish has gotten off to a slow start. Now Leo Carlson joins the mix. This Pavel Minchikov, 19-year-old defenseman, he scores a goal for them against Carolina. He's someone with a lot of talent. Jamie Drysdale now is finally healthy and back for Anaheim as well. I mean, they're building something here in a nice young core. Greg Cronin, to me, is a huge coaching upgrade from Dallas Aikens as well. So I'm not taking Anaheim like I did against Carolina, because Dallas is off a loss, so they should be focused here. But Anaheim's going to have some value at times in this spot, and I think they're going to probably play a pretty good game again tonight. Will it be enough to win? We'll see. I'm not betting them like I did against Carolina, but I might look at the over here in this game, because I think Dallas will get some offense going here against Anaheim. Anaheim's still, room for improvement, work in progress in their own end. And on the flip side, I do think Anaheim can chip in a little bit here offensively. Certainly they were able to do that at home on Sunday, 6 goals against Carolina. So a little bit on the over here for me. Alex, Stars, Ducks.
Yeah, if I had to play anything, side or total, it would be looking toward that over. I could see where the just goals would kind of go back and forth. But one thing that really stuck out with me is Frank Vetrano. Just kind of watching his play. He's a guy I would like to take a shot with on a goal scoring prop. And he's right around our bargain bin, which of course that'll be coming up later. And this is not my bargain bin pick, by the way, but he's in that range of plus 300 at a couple of shops. I think he's worth taking a look. I think his offense is going to get going. And now, like I said, with Carlson being in there in the line too, he's going to take a lot of the spotlight away. I think that just from that rest of that top 6, they're going to get more chances because of him being, the kind of the new flashy piece in Anaheim's lineup.
Yeah, I don't mind that. He's gotten off to a nice start. Absolutely here for the Anaheim Ducks, talking, of course, about Frank Vetrano. Frank the Tank, as our guy Jimmy Murphy always calls him. But definitely a nice start. 3 goals for him in the first 2 games of the season. Ryan Strome with 3 points. McTavish is one, too. I think a little undervalued for sure. Mason McTavish. He's gotten off to a nice start. You can take Zegras. I would be careful with Zegras. Zegras, it's going to take him some time. He's 2 games, no points. Remember, no training camp for him because of that stalemate he had with his new contract. So he's a little bit late, in getting up to game shape, game conditioning, all that with lack of training camp. So it might take Zegras a little bit of time. But yeah, McTavish to get a goal, plus 370, assist, plus 275. You mentioned it. Vetrano is at plus 310 at DraftKings. So really good price there on Vetrano to find the back of the net. What do you think here, Jordan, with Dallas, Anaheim?
Yeah, I don't have much on this game. I think Dallas is obviously a better team, but at that line it's too much to take for that particular situation. I think, with Anaheim, with Gibson and net, there is that drop off between him and Dostal, although Dostal played really, really well in that win. I think they'll have solid goaltending, so I don't think Dallas will get away from it. I think they probably take it, but it's just too much of a line to lay that kind of money, given that, it could surprise you. I think Zegras with a slow start and Carlson coming in could give a little bit of a boost, obviously, but I think he has been injured too, so he doesn't quite have his feet under him either. So, I don't think that line brings as much punch as they normally would, but, I think I don't have too much on this game, to be honest. I'd be one of the ones I'd probably pretty much stay away from tonight.
Yeah, on the Dallas side, with Hintz too, I'd be careful, because Hintz is working his way back. He didn't look like he was at, full flight the other night against Vegas in his first game. So, again, definitely keep an eye on that. In fact, you know what? With Dallas, it's tricky with their props because no one's really jumped off the page early in the season. Ben's got a goal, Pavelski's got a goal, but no one's really dominated here in their first 2 games. So you're going to have to maybe, go smaller across the board. And if you bet multiple players in terms of their props, but maybe look a little smaller as far as the amount, because definitely they've had a little bit, they've had multiple guys that have played well, but nobody's really been, dominating offensively here early on for the Dallas Stars. All right, Carolina and Seattle. We've got Carolina minus 140 road favorite, 6 the total in this game. Carolina continues this West Coast road trip, which started in LA for them and resulted in a 6-5 shootout win against the Kings, where they had the big lead early, and Copley was horrendous early in that game, spotting Carolina a big lead, and then LA roars back, forces overtime in a shootout. And then Carolina survives, though, with the shootout win 6-5. After that, they have the tough spot in Anaheim where they lose 6-3 to the Ducks. And then the last game against San Jose, man, it looked like they were in a battle with San Jose for a while. And then all of a sudden, it was a situation where the San Jose Sharks just and Mackenzie Blackwood, as I said on X the other day, Mackenzie Blackwood is remembered finally. He's not Patrick Waugh, not Marty Brodeur, not Bernie Perrant, Grant Fuhr, you name it, but that he is indeed Mackenzie Blackwood. As the floodgates opened in the third period, and the Hurricanes ended up winning 6-3, 4 goals unanswered for Carolina in that third period. We'll see if he is able to keep it going or bounce back tonight. Actually, he won't, because it's Kokkonen, who has been confirmed in net for the San Jose Sharks tonight. Kokkonen will get the start. We don't have confirmation who's going to be in net yet for Carolina. Keep in mind, Freddie Anderson has ended up on the injury list day to day due to he took a puck off the mask in the game against San Jose the other night. So Antti Raanta had to come in. And there is no telling that Anderson will be available just yet. So we might see Antti Raanta here in net for the Hurricanes tonight in this game. Seattle, look, it's been a rough start. There's no doubt. They are 0-4 to start the season. The offense has just not gotten anything going. 1-0-1-1. Those are the numbers for the Kraken in their first 4 games this season. That being said, the Colorado game they generated a lot. The chances were there, including some really, really good ones. And Georgiev made the save and stopped those chances each and every time. But they're getting closer. They're getting closer to having some offensive success. I'm taking a shot tonight with the Kraken team total in this game. It's 2.5. It's minus 130. Carolina has not found their defensive game yet. In fact, Carolina has allowed 3 goals to their opponent in every game. San Jose scored 3. Anaheim scored 6. LA scored 5. Ottawa scored 3. So Carolina's given up at least 3 goals in every game this year. They have not played that typical, terrific, stellar Carolina defense like we normally see under Rod Brind'Amour. I think for Seattle, I saw baby steps of progress. They still only scored 1 goal, but they had 38 shots. I think they had the most amount of quality chances I've seen them have all season. And I think now over 2.5 in this game with their team total. I'm going to take a shot on that. I don't trust them to win the game, but I'm going to take a shot on their team total here with Seattle over 2.5. Alex, what do you think here? Carolina, Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, it's been just very distressing with Seattle. This is a team that I've backed really highly, over these last couple of years, or not just the last couple of years, but certainly in these last couple of games, just having looking to see where things are going to turn around. Where is the offense going to pick up? Where is this solid kind of just pace of play? And that's been the biggest issue, right? I think for this last game against Colorado, they just weren't able to kind of, get a pace rolling. Colorado wasn't necessarily doing a whole lot on offense late in that game. And it seemed like, but Seattle just wasn't taking advantage of what was given in front of them. Kind of like what I was talking about Philly and Vancouver. The same deal where it's just, okay, 2 teams are just kind of playing this kind of stalemate and no one's really making a big jump. Carolina is that kind of team where if you leave that much time and space, even though this could be a bit of a letdown spot, they've always had success in California, as we talked about. They'd won 8 of the last 11 meetings against teams in California. Now going further north, maybe it changes something a little differently. Maybe they just get a kind of different sense of feel. I don't know. But this is one where I'd definitely be looking toward the draw here. Like I said, it's a big card, so nothing in this game is official as of now. I might look to add it later. This is my Stanley Cup final preview. When we did the preview show. So it'll definitely be one I'll be watching, but I might wait a little bit before I'm betting anything. And like I said, can't back Seattle, trust Seattle right now. They got to show some more effort and some better offensive spark and energy.
And they're missing some offensive sparks right now. There's no doubt with their team struggling, no doubt, to put the puck in the net. And by the way, Sebastian Aho missed the San Jose game the other night, late scratch, day-to-day, questionable tonight. If he doesn't play, that means you target Teravainen, Marty Necas, Stefan Nason, your guy, Alex, back up to the second line, and he scored against San Jose. Maybe a little Stefan Nason props as well once again tonight for Carolina. But those are definitely some props to look for. Those are the three guys, really. Teravainen, Necas, and Nason maybe as well, if indeed Aho is a no-go tonight once again for Carolina. What do you think here, Jordan? Hurricanes and Kraken.
Yeah, interesting game, because you would think, later season this would probably be a low-scoring game just due to Carolina being so defensively and the way that they play, but they haven't looked great defensively early. And, Seattle hasn't got going yet. They scored pretty decently, by volume last year, by committee, definitely. But, this could be the game where they could kind of break out. It might be one of those ones where you sit on the first 5 minutes of the game or first 10 minutes, see how it goes. And then, if there's chances back and forth, maybe on that, the live pushes down below 6 and see if these two teams can get going. Carolina continues to be pretty porous defensively, and maybe Seattle gets going. They did have a nice game against Colorado the other night. I watched the majority of that game. I benefited from it because I had Colorado in a couple different scenarios, but they took the play to them for a long time, and they did have chances. Georgiev was great, and Colorado just was opportunistic at the runs, but Seattle carried the long stretches and they had good chances. They moved the puck well on their power plays. That's a nice looks. It just didn't quite materialize for them. I'll have to see how it kind of starts off for me, but one of those games early in the season it's a tough bet just because of these two teams aren't playing characteristically like they normally would be.
No doubt about it. I like the Vince Dunn point prop, but you could even go better than that. Plus 175 for an assist prop. The point prop is plus 130. Assist is plus 175. I think it's even better to take the assist prop because most of his points are assists. He doesn't score a ton of goals. His 2 points this year are assists. So definitely, I think even better value Dunn assist prop. For goal prop, it's got to be McCann. Jared McCann's going to be the guy they lean on offensively for Seattle to get out of these doldrums. So I would look at that. And I don't mind that either from our guy, Cuban Wayne Gretzky in the chat, Seth Jarvis. Jarvis, Teravainen, Necas, and Nason become the big targets for props for Carolina, especially if Aho doesn't play in this game tonight. All right, here we go. This is your ESPN game here tonight. Chicago Blackhawks, Colorado Avalanche. Colorado minus 350 home favorites here. 6 the total in this game. This is not the price range I'm comfortable betting against Chicago right now. They have been feisty. They have been scrappy, the work ethic. I love Luke Richardson, though, by the way, and how he's got this team working right now. This is a guy that I think's got potential to be a damn good coach in this league. I said it from the beginning, and we're really seeing it now. How he's got this team. They actually are playing with some structure, I will say that. And that's, we haven't seen that consistently from a Chicago team defensively for a long time. And they do have some injuries too, including Kurashev in particular, but they've been able to navigate it and be able to compete very hard in these games. Think about the games so far. They beat Pittsburgh, upset the Penguins on opening night. They give Boston everything they can handle, even though they fall short. Montreal, they're right in that game. They upset Toronto. They have been in every single game, the Blackhawks this year. And this is with Bedard just with the 1 goal so far. And they've been doing this. So wait till number 98 gets rolling here for the Chicago Blackhawks. So this is a tricky spot for Colorado. They're off that big game. They circled it, triple circled on their schedule playing Seattle, the team that knocked them out of the playoffs when they beat the Kraken the other night. Now you come home. It is, I believe, for Colorado, the home opener for them here tonight against Chicago. That maybe that gets them going. But at this price and with the way Chicago has just been working their rear ends off to begin this season in games, you could do worse than taking a shot with Chicago here at plus 280 in this game. It's a big nut. If you're to be safer, if you don't fully trust Colorado or Chicago rather to win the game, you can go with the puck line, and the puck line is reasonable. It's plus 1.5, plus 120 for the Chicago Blackhawks for +1.5 goals on the puck line in this game. And that might be a great thing to consider as well, because they've lost a bunch of 1-goal games in a lot of their losses so far this year. So they've been in every game. It's not the greatest, spot for the Avs. Chicago's been competitive. Peter Mrazek, by the way, has been confirmed in net for the Blackhawks in this game. We're still waiting on the Colorado goaltender. And the longer it goes with no confirmation, the more I'm wondering if we're going to see Georgiev tonight. We may not. And it might be a Ivan Prosvetov night in between the pipes for the Colorado Avalanche. And there is a drop-off, make no mistake about it. When you go from Georgiev's had a terrific start to the season. He's a big reason why they beat Seattle, because they got outplayed by the Kraken. Georgiev was great. If it drops off down to Prosvetov tonight, that's a big decline and could make Chicago live here in this game tonight in the Mile High City. What do you think here, Alex? Chicago, Colorado.
Yeah, if you note like I said, the start time on this game, 8:30 Central, 7:30 Mountain, and it's a little bit later, like I said, because it's opening night. There's gonna be a bit of a ceremony. Also, there was a conflict.
9:30 Central, 8:30 Mountain.
Oh, no, right, 9:30 Central, right? Right. So yeah, there's a conflict with TV, but there's also the ceremony, so it's gonna be a little bit of a later start. And someone mentioned, yeah, the Hawks have been home wreckers. They've been in these spots already so far with these home openers. They dealt with it in Boston. Dealt with it in Montreal. They're going to have their own on Saturday. So they've been in this spot a couple of times, right? Pittsburgh. So they're not fazed by that. If anything, they would know how to get off to a hot start. Colorado might be the team that could come out a bit sluggish in that. But you mentioned Peter Mrazek, 4-1-2 in his career in 8 starts against Colorado with a 1.69 goals against and a 941 save percentage. So that's a spot here where definitely we can back Mrazek. The way I'm going to play this is I'm still waiting for that confirmation for Colorado. As of right now, I have bets on Connor Bedard to score a goal +200 for a half a unit. And I also have a shot here with the Blackhawks +1.5, +120, as you mentioned, on the puck line. I will be adding the full game money line if Prosvetov is confirmed for Colorado. I definitely think this is a spot where the Hawks can come in, play spoiler, and get the big upset win on the road.
Yeah, and like I said, they have shown the propensity to do that. Pittsburgh and Toronto, 2 huge upset victories as big underdogs already, both on the road as well. Does that happen potentially here tonight? And like I say, if you're not, and I agree, I sprinkled a little on the money line and a little on the +1.5, +120, a little on both, because I do think this could be one of those 1-goal losses, and we've already seen this from Chicago this year, the 1-goal losses. But I definitely think this is not the best spot in the world for Colorado coming off that ultra satisfying, win against the Seattle Kraken, of course, the other night. So worth a shot. Connor Bedard, by the way, point and goal props might be worth a look, but especially the shots on goal. He keeps going over his shots on goal. He keeps getting 4 or 5 or more shots every game. And I say you keep riding that until there's an adjustment made as far as that shots prop for number 98, Connor Bedard. Jordan, what do you think here, Chicago, Colorado?
I mean, they are looking like kind of, possessed right now. Like they're kind of back in after last year's disappointment, and I think they're getting healthier. Minus Landeskog, it's good to see Nichushkin back. He's a big kind of underrated part of their offense there. It's a really big line. I think I'd stay away from the line itself, but depending on the Colorado goaltending situation, like you said, their backup may allow for a little bit more from Chicago. So, the total's not too bad. I think even though the line will be big, I would target something with McKinnon. He's a extremely competitive individual, and much like Crosby the other night going up against Bedard, I think, circles games like this on a day that he's going to have something to prove out there to let the kid know that, hey, I'm still one of the big dogs in this league. And, if you want to be a superstar, you kind of got to come through me. So I think he'd be a guy to target on some props, even though, obviously will be a little bit steep, but I still going to have a big game for Colorado. And I think that, that combined with maybe the backup goalie, I think the total could be an over and something on McKinnon on the side.
All right, yeah, McKinnon. And by the way, Jonathan Drouin to get a point is something I've been rolling back and over again. And I think playing on that top line, we've talked about it a lot. He's got confidence, and he remembers playing with McKinnon in the junior days with the Halifax Mooseheads. I think he definitely is playing reinvigorated hockey for Colorado. We'll see. Again, we're waiting on the goalie confirmation. That's a big component of this.
Yeah.
Because Prosvetov will make this look on Chicago probably a better one, if he ends up being in net. All right, it's been a marathon show, as we thought, on a day with 12 games. We've reached our final game of the slate. Boston, San Jose, the Bruins minus 280 road favorites, 6 the total here in this game. San Jose losing 6-3 to Carolina in their last game, 0-3 to start the year. The only reason the game against Colorado was close, 2-1 shootout loss to the Avalanche, was because of Mackenzie Blackwood just putting in one of the games you'll probably never see from him again. In that game, 52 shots he faced, and he turned aside 51 of them in that game. And sure enough, Blackwood finally hit the wall against Carolina in his last start. And rightfully so, David Quinn resting Blackwood after that intense workload the last 2 games, and going back to Kaapo Kähkönen in net tonight for the San Jose Sharks. But, San Jose, they're a team that's going to struggle defensively. We've seen that. Look at the shots they're giving up: 32, 52, and 42 shots on goal allowed. I love the saves prop for Kähkönen over. It's my favorite saves prop. They're just giving up a ton of shots every single night, San Jose. So Kaapo Kähkönen over saves, I like that quite a bit. I've been picking off these team totals for teams that play San Jose, and I'm going back to that well here tonight. Boston over 3.5 team total, minus 135. I think that's a good look. The Bruins, by the way, they scored 4 in each of the 2 games against San Jose last year when these 2 teams played. Now, the Bruins offensively without Marchand and Krejci, there are questions about will they have to get more scoring and by committee. You can't put it all on Pasternak and Marchand all the time. But I think in this game here, you're going to see some of their depth forwards be able to step up and contribute. San Jose has just given up way too many quality chances, way too many shots against. Boston should be able to take advantage of that. So the main bet here for me is Boston team total over 3.5, minus 135 here in this game. What do you think here, Alex? Bruins, Sharks.
Yeah, this game works out nicely too with the timing. I'll be listening to it on the radio while watching the Hawks game. I'm just going with the first period over 1.5. You can get a minus $1.25, minus $1.30. I would go on and lay this one quick. I think Boston can maybe jump out and get a edge on Kaapo Kähkönen, like you said. Looking at that saves prop makes a lot of sense. Boston should be hot and heavy with it, as we see at least 2 goals in that first period. So I'm just sticking with that.
Yeah, no question about that. I think it's definitely worth a look. It's a good night to maybe look at a couple of props involving the Bruins here so far. I mean, Marchand and Pasternak are obvious choices. Great opportunities probably for both of them to be able to contribute offensively against what we think is a weaker blue line. Goaltending we don't trust with Kaapo Kähkönen. Pasternak already has 3 goals, assist, 4 points this season. How about 2 goals for JVR? James Van Riemsdyk, as Don Cherry would call him, James Van Beesbrook, here for the Boston Bruins. Absolutely outstanding start to the that's one of the best ones he had in terms of just getting the names mixed up. James Van Beesbrook. I'll never forget when he said that. But yeah, JVR's off to a nice start. A little fountain of youth here for JVR with his new team, the Boston Bruins. 2 goals. I'd take a shot with him. Why not? He's feeling it. 2 goals in the first 2 games. We know he's going to be set up in his office right in front of the net. He scores so many of his goals there, plus 230. Pretty good price. So good options there as far as JVR for Boston tonight. Jordan, what do you think here for this final game on the card, Bruins and Sharks?
Yeah, I do like that Boston team total. And I mean, shot prop, pretty much anyone on the Bruins. I would say the amount of shots that San Jose is giving up right now, they're not a good team. I don't think they're going to be a good team. They're in tough this season. I think the JVR is a nice mention there. Just, kind of slot in on that power play is a nice spot for him with, distributors like John and Pasternak there and McAvoy, a guy who, is a shooter, gets a lot through from the top. I think JVR down at the bottom has a lot of opportunity on that power play to be successful. I think if I were to go way out on a limb for for one prop, I would say it would be actually Kevin Labanc to score for San Jose. I read today that he was about on waivers, and then they paid him back, and he's going to make his season debut tonight. So usually when funky stuff happens like that to guys, for some reason it works out for them. And I think, as a guy that can score when given the opportunity, got a nice shot. I think, for him, just the right amount of kind of odd situation to get back in, make your debut, and maybe give, the boys a little bit of a boost here. I think I might sprinkle a little bit on him just to kind of find a way to in a weird situation, goal scorers find a way to do that. And I think for him, it'd be a nice start, get him back.
That's a very interesting angle, and it makes sense. And you've been in the dressing room before, Jordan. You know the team dynamics and how things can work. And I've seen this before. The team looks like they've cast you aside, and then all of a sudden you end up back, not only back with the team after the waivers placement, but then you're in the lineup tonight for the first time. And it looks like they're playing him on the second power play unit, according to the latest lineup combinations. And he's going to be on the second line with Thomas Bordeleau. And here's one to consider, too, for San Jose as far as a prop goes. Philip Zadina, man. This guy was a very highly rated prospect with Detroit. It didn't pan out there. He didn't produce the way they thought. He's gotten off to a great start. He's got goals in multiple games for San Jose this year, Philip Zadina. So there may be someone to look at as well. But I like that angle with Labanc. Plus 500, by the way. He is to score a goal tonight at BetMGM, DraftKings, among other places. So that's a solid angle right there. I could see him being fired up tonight, getting an opportunity, second line power play time as well for San Jose. I like it. Great call, great find there, Jordan. There you go. Jordan came ready.
That's
man.
Nice. Kind of happened the same with Connor Garland from Vancouver there. All of a sudden, the story comes out about his agent, being offered to look for a deal for him. And then, they throw him out there the first night. He scores the first goal of the game for Vancouver, first goal of the season for them, I think. So it happens like that, right? You get that kind of weird juju going. So I think, if I was to anything, I think it would be something like that for Labanc, because he has proven in the past that he can score. His consistency is a bit of an issue. He is a shooter and he knows how to find the net. So if they're going to give him an opportunity in his first game and not, bury him lower in the lines, I think if they're going to give him some real opportunity here, he might be able to get one.
Wow, that's a really good angle. It's so good. I'm going to bet a little bit of it, actually. Labanc plus 500 here to find the back of the net for the San Jose Sharks. Great stuff. Tremendous show. All 12 games. We're trying to keep it to 90 minutes on these days when we have these huge cards, but sometimes it's just too much to say. We go a little bit beyond that, but we appreciate everyone. 340 live viewers right now. We appreciate it. Hit the like button. Make sure you do that. Show the appreciation. All the analysis from me, from Alex, and Jordan Henry, man, our guest. We're going to have to get him on a bunch more times. This was outstanding. Definitely. This guy was prepared. He was ready. He got great insight, great, like plus 500 on Labanc. The angle makes sense to me. He came ready, and you can tell he's serious about this shit, just like we are. So, Jordan, phenomenal debut for you here on the Ice Guys. The Ice Guys family plan, we want to mention it, $9.99 US per month. Check that out. Hit the join button, and you'll get access in the community tab to our exclusive content, daily betting card, player props, you name it. We've been doing very well with it so far, especially the last couple of days. So again, check that out. We're going to have video content and the impromptu betcasts on the way throughout the season as well, exclusively for our Ice Guys family plan YouTube channel subscribers, $9.99 US per month. Make sure you join and check that out. And of course, the store. We've got a lot of new merch coming, new gear, new types of clothing. We've got the Skinner shirts that we showed you yesterday. Check out the store, the new merch, hot off the presses.
Yeah, absolutely. To find the link for the new store, we have that up on our X page at _Ice Guys, and that's also on the family plan page and the Patreon page as well. Don't forget about that. Coming up on Monday, Chris Otto's first period charts will be there. We'll have the full set of them on that first run. I'll also have my updated power rankings. Ian will have his power rankings updated as well. So don't forget about the Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Ice Guys. But definitely check out the store. We've got the new merch over at the secondary store, but the primary store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com, We still got 5 days left of free standard shipping over there. So we've got all the regular T-shirts and hoodies and different things, all the baby stuff and stuff. We got a huge list now between the two stores. So shop at your heart's desire and to help support the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great gear. I'm going to look into it too, because I've just got the hoodie and we've got to add to the collection as far as Ice Guys gear is concerned. All right. Before we get to best bets, of course, everyone's favorite segment, bargain bin special of the night. Jordan, you already, I think I know where you might be going with this, but what the bargain bin special of the night is, we pick our favorite goal scorer prop, or really prop of any kind, player prop that is plus 300 price or better. So that's why we call it the bargain bin special. We really look for value. We've hit a bunch of these already this season. I'm going to give you one from the Toronto, Florida game. I hinted at it earlier without totally giving it away, and I'm going to mention it tonight. He's moved up to the second line for Toronto. They want to get him going offensively. He's playing with Tavares and Nylander on the second line, and we know he's capable. And he scored his first NHL goal against this team in their second round playoff series last year. I'm going with Matthew Knies for the Toronto Maple Leafs, plus 500 at FanDuel to find the back of the net tonight. That is my bargain bin special of the night. Alex, what do you have?
I'm going with one you identified in that Vegas-Winnipeg game, going with Adam Lowry. Like I said, the captain can make it happen. Get him at plus 475. He scored 4 goals against Vegas in 12 regular season games. He's also scored another 4 goals against them in the playoffs in that series last year, including a game 1 where he had 2 goals. So he's definitely been hot whenever he sees gold. So let's go with Adam Lowry, plus 475. That's my bargain bin special tonight.
There we go. Adam Lowry, Winnipeg Jets, plus 475. Jordan, you mentioned Kevin LeBanc at San Jose, plus 500 with that angle. Do you want to stick with that as your bargain bin special of the night?
Yeah, that's going to be my guy. I think that kind of went right into this segment here. I think that's a guy that I'm going to target on something that's of real good value and a guy that's probably got a chip on his shoulder now. So look for him to get some opportunity and chip one in for them.
All right, there you go. So 3 bargain bin specials on this Thursday edition of the show. And we wrap up the show now with best bets. Alex, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
Yeah, I got a lot to comb through because normally I don't have this big of a card, but we are going to go with Coyotes Blues. First period over, minus 1.5, or minus 130, I should say, over 1.5 goals. This is a great spot. 10 of the last 15 meetings have gone over 1 or 2 or more goals in that first period. And like I said, this is Joel Hofer, a goaltender we don't really trust. Connor Ingram, who's shown some flurries of brilliance at times, but it's still kind of a mid-range to below average goaltender. I think we see goals here early and often. So give me the Yotes and the Blues. First period over 1.5, minus $1.30. That's my best bet for tonight.
All right, there we go. That is Arizona and St. Louis. Over 1.5 first period. Best bet for Alex B. Smith. Jordan Henry, awesome job. We'll get you back on the show definitely a few more times at least this season. But what do you like tonight for best bet?
I think my best bet's got to be a first period over as well. I think it's going to be Calgary Buffalo. I think teams are due to put up some goals, and I think with Calgary involved, it usually gets started early. So I think that's going to be me over 1.5 in the first period here for Calgary and Buffalo.
All right, excellent stuff. Jordan Henry, Calgary, Buffalo, over 1.5 first period for his best bet for this Thursday card. My best bet, I'm going to go to Tampa Bay down there and take the Vancouver Canucks. I've got them first period, I've got them full game, and I've got a little on the team total. I'll just go ahead with the full game. Vancouver Canucks on the money line here, which is at plus 115 at Betway is the best price right now with that. Not a happy Rick Tocchet after the Philadelphia game. Tampa Bay struggling. I know they get Stamkos back tonight, which will help, but they're struggling mightily. They haven't won since their opener against Nashville to begin the season. I like Vancouver in this spot. Plus 115, Vancouver Canucks against the Tampa Bay Lightning for my best bet. Great stuff. Jordan, great debut from you here on the show. Any last words before we wrap up?
No, I appreciate you guys having me on. It was fun to talk about this stuff. I'm I'm a little bit new to the scene, I guess. I've only been, betting on sports for, probably 3 years or so, fairly consistently is my main bet, just because I'm more familiar with it and it's on at the right time for me, right? I've got 2 young kids myself, so I don't get too much football in on Sundays. So I got to stick to hockey and what I know about some of the guys and about being around, with it. I think there's some intricacies there that you can use. So, I really enjoy it, and it makes those Arizona St. Louis games in the middle of December more interesting, right? You get something on it, it makes it
right.
definitely watch sometimes, because those games in the dog days can get a little tough for teams. So, it makes it a little bit better watching as well. So I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those San Jose, Montreal games. Yeah. They're going to be difficult. Yeah. When you see them on the schedule, 2 teams that, aren't going to be that great. But you're right. You place a few bets on that particular game, and all of a sudden, it puts a little more, it puts more energy in you actually to follow the game and watch it. So no question about that. And like I said, you brought so many different good insights and angles on the show in your first appearance. So we'll get you back on for sure throughout the season. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Reminder, we've got our first live betcast of the NHL season, Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Eastern. We will be going through most of the night. It's a special night. All 32 teams are playing. And of course, staggered start times throughout the night. We're looking forward to that. Again, if you want to join us on the betcast, just DM me or Alex, and we will make sure we get the link to you before the betcast on Tuesday night. We are looking forward to that, no doubt.
Absolutely. And just quick programming notes. Of course, on Mondays now, until college football season ends, our show will start at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. But on Tuesday, to fit in the long card, because it's going to be at least a 2-hour show with all 32 teams in action, we will actually be starting at our weekend time of noon Eastern, 11 p.m. Central. So it's a lunchtime episode. It's going to run about 2 hours, and we're going to try and get the card and the podcast up immediately after, so everything will be ready and fluid for that evening, because that's going to be a long night.
No doubt. So noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, Tuesday, for the Ice Guys show with all 32 teams in action. There we go. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week. And make sure you download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms. For Alex B. Smith and for our guest, Jordan Henry, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. We will talk to you again tomorrow on Friday for another edition of the Ice Guys.